Somewhere deep inside you burns a fire bigger than doubt, louder than the noise of the crowd, a flame of sovereignty. This is the first secret law that the Sigma female lives by: to claim herself as the ultimate authority, the ruler and the lawgiver of her own existence. You have been told to follow rules, to seek validation, to measure your worth by the approval of others. But what if those voices aren't your judges, but illusions? Shadows cast by a world afraid of truth or rule. The law of inner sovereignty demands that you break free from these external chains. It insists that no one outside your being holds the power to define you, not society, not culture, not the loudest voices in the room. Sovereignty is not about rebellion for rebellion's sake. It is not a battle cry shouted at the world, but an unshakable, quiet decree inside. It is the profound understanding that you embody your own law, that your identity is not negotiable or subject to popular vote. Ask yourself, whose rules are you living by now? Which parts of your identity were given to you and which have you claimed as your own? True sovereignty arises when you shift from external validation to internal authority, when you begin to trust yourself more than the approval of any outside force. You tap into a power that no one can take away. Example in action. Picture a woman standing alone in a crowded room. The noise swells around her, opinions and judgments like tidal waves. But her gaze is rooted inward, steady, unshaken by the storm. She walks with purpose, not needing permission, nor seeking applause. This is sovereignty in motion, a self-governed force, moving by her own compass. Sovereignty is more than a concept, it's a lived reality in how you govern your emotional world. When external chaos threatens, does your mind fracture, or does it find calm? When criticism or rejection comes, does it decide your worth, or bounce off a shield you forged yourself? Emotional sovereignty means you regulate your inner experience. Independently, imagine a ruler who commands not just territory, but the very pulse of her emotions. This mastery emerges when you recognize that while you cannot control every circumstance, you always control your response. This law teaches you, do not outsource your emotional state to others. Develop resilience through self-awareness and self-compassion. Understand that your feelings are your messages, respect them, but don't be ruled by them. Practical action. Start small. When you feel triggered, pause and ask, is this my truth or someone else's? Practice speaking your truth quietly, firmly, without apology. This is the beginning of reclaiming your emotional throne. You are more than your environment, more than the temporary scripts written by society's stage managers. Inside, you lie ancient, invisible runes, secret laws waiting to be awakened. These laws are the blueprint for your quiet yet unbreakable power. They are not flashy or loud. They do not strive to dominate or impress. Instead, they embody sovereignty. In its purest form, silent, sovereign, sacred, reflect what internal laws already whisper your truth. Which truths have been buried under the weight of expectation? What happens when you dare to live by your own code, not another's? To live by these inner laws is to become a force that cannot be swayed by the transient opinions of a noisy world. It is to become rooted in authenticity, anchored in a presence that does not need to shout. This law stands on the shoulders of Stoicism and existentialism philosophies that teach you are the architect of your freedom. The Stoics remind us, it is not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. Existentialists say, you are condemned to be free, meaning freedom is not a gift but a responsibility you claim. You hold this responsibility now. When you embody inner sovereignty, you no longer passively endure life's pressures. You engage actively, choosing what shapes you and what you shed. Today, I challenge you, stop giving away your power in small increments. The world will ask you to conform constantly, to mute your voice, to fit into vulnerable molds, to seek approval. Resist not by shouting louder in the chaos, but by claiming your silence, your space, your law. Write down the rules you live by, then cross out those that don't belong to you. Rewrite them from your soul's blueprint. Say out loud, I am the sovereign ruler of my soul. No one's voice can override my truth. Stand in that truth every day. Let it guide your choices, your boundaries, your relationships. Sovereignty is not a destination, is your nature reclaimed. Your power embodied. You are the ultimate authority over your life. Claim it, own it, live it. The law of inner sovereignty isn't just a secret, it is your birthright and your power throne. Step onto it now and rule your world with the quiet, unyielding strength of a true Sigma female. You have claimed your sovereignty. You have declared yourself the ultimate authority in your life. But now, the true test begins. Will you wield your power like a hammer-shattering resistance or like a river-carving stone with persistent grace? The law of sacred alignment calls you to master the art of flow, to move with your inner truth and the pulse of the universe rather than against it. Ask yourself, are you forcing outcomes out of fear, impatience, or the need to control? Or are you surrendering not to passivity, but to a fierce, poised alignment with your essence and timing? Alignment is not weakness. It is not compliance. It is the highest expression of sovereign power. It is the wisdom of wu-wei, effortless action married to the Stoics' courage to accept what cannot be changed while mastering what can. You are not here to be a battering ram. You are here to be the silent, majestic force that moves mountains through persistence, patience, and perfect timing. Here's how this secret law reshapes your power. To force control is to fight life itself, and that battle is lost before it begins. The Sigma female knows this deeply. She does not waste energy tightening her fists against destiny. Instead, she loosens her grip and moves with precision where her power resonates most. Consider this. A river does not command the rock to move. It accepts the rock's place and carves a path patiently around, over, beneath it. This river is unstoppable not because of brute force, but because of relentless, elegant persistence. You embody this river. When you push against storms, you exhaust vital energy. When you align with your inner rhythm and circumstances, your actions become both natural and unstoppable. Ask yourself, where in your life are you wrestling with control that drains your spirit? How would your experience change if you chose to flow instead of force? Practical action. Next time pressure mounts, stop, breathe. Ask, what is truly mine to influence here? Where can I surrender without losing my power? Act with intention, not reaction. Use mindfulness to discover the currents beneath your resistance. Powerful reminder, effort without force is sovereignty. Signature. Alignment demands presence, and presence demands silence, not the empty silence of absence, but a sacred container where your true power grows. Silence is not passive, it's fertile. It's here, in the quiet spaces of reflection and introspection, where you meet the parts of yourself hidden from light the shadow. To embody sacred alignment, you must integrate your shadow, the doubts, fears, imperfections, and contradictions you've been taught to hide or reject. These shadows are not curses, but allies, reservoirs of untamed strength and wisdom. Philosopher Carl Jung taught that ignoring the shadow fractures the self. Integrating it makes you whole and infinitely resilient. Imagine the wounds you deny. What would happen if you faced them with courage? What resilience and power wait on the other side of honest self-embrace? Practical action. Create daily rituals to embrace silence, meditate, journal, unplug from noise. Invite your shadow to speak by writing down what you resist about yourself. Then meet it without judgment. Remember, owning your shadows is not surrender. It's sovereignty in deeper form. Powerful reminder. Your shadow is the untamed hearth, where your fiercest power burns. If alignment governs how you move within, the law of sacred alignment extends outward into your relationships. Connection is not a default setting, it is a sacred choice. You do not need all voices around you. You choose which ones echo in your life, which energies you allow close, which bonds nourish your spirit rather than dilute it. Yet, selective connection does not mean isolation. It means cultivating relationships that honor autonomy and mutual respect. Connections that are not chains, but freedoms shared. Ask yourself, which relationships fuel your authentic self, and which ask you to conform or fragment? Where can you set boundaries to preserve your flow and strength? Practical action. Evaluate your closest connections with honesty. Practice the words, I love and respect myself enough to choose who enters my inner circle. Set boundaries with compassion and clarity, affirming your right to tend your energy like a sacred garden. Powerful reminder: true connection is a dance of respect, never a demand for surrender. Alignment is not only personal, it is cosmic. The Sigma female's path transcends fleeting trends and empty ambitions. Her power blossoms when rooted in timeless purpose, that which outlasts seasons, fads, and the clamor of the now. Reflect what calls you beyond survival and success. What legacy do you want to carve into the eternal stone of existence? Your inner laws are a blueprint for a life lived in service to something greater, an unfolding mission that is uniquely yours. Practical action. Begin a practice of visioning your highest purpose. Write your mission statement, aligning it with your values and the rhythms you feel pulsing inside. Let it be your compass, guiding your choices beyond impulse or pressure. Powerful reminder: when your actions echo the universe's pulse, your power becomes timeless. Now is your invitation. Stop wrestling the wind. Lean into your sovereign power, not through sheer force, but through sacred flow. Move with the wisdom of rivers and stars, persistent, patient, profound. Turn inward to silence, where your shadows teach you to own all of yourself. Choose your connections as a queen chooses her counsel, carefully, courageously, and with clarity. Anchor your actions in a purpose that endures far beyond the fleeting applause of crowds. This is the law of sacred alignment. It is your liberation from the chaos of control, your cultivation of quiet strength in every breath, every choice, every relationship. Stand firm in your sovereignty and flow. Own the power of sacred alignment and watch your life become unstoppable. Say it now. My power moves with grace and timing. I align with my truth and the universe's rhythm. I flow, I persist, I rise. Rise, Sigma female. In the elegant mastery of sacred alignment, your journey has only just begun. You have claimed your throne and learned the art of flowing. With your power, now the path widens to the most delicate yet indispensable realm: connection. The Sigma female knows that power is not only rooted in self-rule and alignment, it blossoms in the sacred soil of relationships, chosen with precision and care. This is the law of selective connection. But what does it truly mean to connect without losing yourself, to engage deeply in a world that constantly demands your energy, your identity, your essence, without surrendering your sovereignty? Ask yourself, are the people around you amplifying your power or quietly draining you? Do your relationships honor your solitude as fiercely as your presence? How do you balance vulnerability with boundaries, intimacy with independence? This section is your guide to mastering that balance, to becoming a force that is both intimately connected and unshakably free. Connection is not a random accident or a social checkbox. The Sigma female approaches relationships as a sacred dance, a dynamic negotiation between closeness and space, between giving and receiving, between holding on and letting go. This dance demands two things: precision in choice. You cannot open your inner circle to everyone. Connection is a gate you guard with sovereign authority. Choosing who enters is not selfishness. It is self-respect, respect for autonomy. True bonds do not consume or demand, they uplift. They let your spirit breathe while nourishing the roots that run deep. Why settle for shallow ties or draining codependency disguised as friendship? Why tolerate voices that fragment your truth or dilute your flame? Picture the lone wolf who howls not because she is lonely, but because she calls only to her pack. She is not less powerful alone. She is infinitely more empowered precisely because she chooses wisely who hears her call. Practical steps to take now. Not all connection is spoken. More often, your most potent relational power lies in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. The Sigma female guards her silence. Like a sanctuary, it is not emptiness. It is charged space where presence speaks louder than noise. Silence is your fortress and your offering. It creates room for reflection, for respect, for the sacredness of each person's boundaries. In conversation and relationships, silence holds the tension with grace instead of rushing to fill it with words or reactions. But silence is only one side of this coin. The other is shadow. Integration, the courageous practice of owning your whole self in relationship, your fears, your wounds, your contradictions. Too often, society insists you hide your shadows to be acceptable. The Sigma female knows better. Her shadows are her strength. They are a rich undercurrent that deepens every bond capable of holding them. When you integrate your shadow, you invite others into a fuller, realer connection, not a sanitized version of yourself. You build resilience for conflict, not avoidance. Courage for truth-telling, not silence in fear. You magnetize those who honor whole authenticity, repelling superficial or controlling ties. Practical actions to deepen this law: allow silence. Practice sitting with silence in conversations, without rushing to fill the void. Witness how power quietly rests in these spaces. Journal your shadows. Write honestly about what you resist about yourself, or how past wounds influence your relationships. Then read it back with compassion. Set emotional boundaries when shadows trigger reactions. Name your feeling and pause. Ask, is this my emotional territory, or being triggered by someone else's energy? Learn to choose responses, not react. Selective connection is not just about who you allow into your life. It is about why you connect, to cultivate a community that reflects and amplifies your timeless purpose. This law lifts your gaze beyond daily interactions to the legacy of your relational choices. The people you join with are release shape, not just your present power, but the imprint you leave on the world. Ask yourself, which people inspire you to embody your highest self? Are your relationships building bridges toward your purpose, or walls that trap you in patterns of approval and fear? How does your network reflect the universal laws you live by? Purpose is never static. It evolves as you deepen into your sovereignty and alignment, but it always calls toward growth, service, and authentic impact. Imagine your life as a garden. Each relationship is a seed that either bears fruit or thorns. The Sigma female tends her garden with love and vigilance, watering only those bonds that honor freedom and nourish growth. How to align your relationships with purpose. Craft your relationship mission statement. What do you want your connections to bring to your life and the world you influence? Write it down and revisit often. Practice discernment. Notice when relationships pull you away from your path or obscure your vision. Have the courage to release or redefine them. Nurture like souls. Seek bonds with those whose inner laws resonate with yours. Together, you form a stronger, freer collective energy. Which relationships have you unconsciously allowed to erode your sovereignty? How do you respond when your boundaries are tested? Do you stand firm or bend until you break? What would your life look like if every connection honored your flow and freedom as fiercely as you do? I cultivate relationships that honor my freedom and strengthen my spirit. I am the guardian of my inner circle, choosing with love, clarity, and fierce respect. My connections are sacred extensions of my sovereignty, rising with me toward timeless purpose. This law of selective connection crowns the wisdom of inner sovereignty and sacred alignment with the world's profoundest truth. Your power is not a fortress of isolation, but a radiant, chosen constellation of bonds that reflect your essence without stealing it. Walk this path with the confidence of stars, quiet sovereign, luminous, and watch how your world reshapes itself around the force of your authentic company. The Sigma female knows connection is freedom when chosen. It is strength when rooted in truth. It is legacy when aligned with purpose. Now, claim it, live it, lead with it.